Next, we come to Transcendentalism. Transcendentalism uh, is a movement which lasts within the Romantic movement, of course, is a movement which lasted from about 1830 to 1860, and it was a vital part of the Romantic movement. Ralph Emerson was its putative leader. The putative leader of Transcendentalism was Ralph Emerson. The Transcendentalists believed that there is a divine spirit in nature and in every living soul. Through transcendentalism and self-reliance, human beings could reunite with God. So the transcendental movement is also an extension of the Romantic movement, an extension of the Romantic era, and is a very important part of the Romantic movement, and it lasted for about 30 to 35 years, from 1830 to 1860, and it played a very vital role and its leader was Ralph Waldo Emerson. What did they believe? They believed that there is a divine spirit. They believe there is a divine spirit, not necessarily God, not necessarily, there is no religious fervor to the transcendentalists. Let me remind that. We have to note that carefully. There is a divine faith, a divine belief that every living soul, it is believed that there is a divine spirit in every living soul and in nature as well. Through individualism and self-reliance. Now, this is the transcendentalism is something which even today the spiritual leaders follow, and the spiritual leaders tend to preach. But of course, some of them are politicized. We don't want to get into that, but of course there is relevance. So these are all carried forward. It is not that the impact of Romantic period has ended, and the impact of Romantic period is still there. The impact of transcendentalism is still carried even today in the post-modern period, where we are facing a digital invasion, a technological invasion. Even during that time, we are turning to transcendentalism. We are again and again. Now we are turning to solitude. We are trying to find solitude. So, and how human beings could reunite with God, with the supreme power. And the transcendentalists feel that through individualism and self-reliance, human beings could only reunite with God, with the ultimate power. Okay. Now, the 5 characteristics of transcendentalism, therefore, are simplistic living, self-reliance, importance of nature, praising the nature, understanding the importance of nature, spirituality, and again, self-reliance. So these are the characteristic features of transcendentalism. It is helpful to understand the historical backdrop for the emergence of the dark romantics and the transcendentalists. Why and when did these two subcategories of the Romantic period emerge? What is the historical backdrop? It is important to understand, just like it is important to understand why the lake poets, why it is lake poets, why Romantic age. Why romantic? Because of the Industrial Revolution was beginning at its peak, and then there was a need to get back to nature and to praise the nature. So here also it is helpful and important to understand the historical backdrop for the emergence of the dark romantics and the transcendentalists. America had established itself as an independent nation and was struggling with the morality of slavery and social reforms. Struggling with the morality of slavery and social reforms and the rights of the minority. Abraham Lincoln rose to power, leading the country with a truly distinctive American voice, eloquent yet simple, and coarse language, embracing the country's failures and triumphs and tragedy. His fallibility was very much in line with the dark romantic authors who published their major works shortly before the American Civil War and its messy aftermath into the Reconstruction era. The Scarlet Letter was published in 1850. The same year, Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Act. We have to do it. Moby Dick or The Whale was published a year later. So we can see the consequence of this, or the backdrop under which these aestheticism and the dark romantics and transcendentalists evolved. The historical context and the background is important to understand the evolution, the immanence of transcendentalists in that era. The transcendentalists were busy at this time in history. Thoreau's Walden was published in 1854, Whitman's Leaves of Grass a year later in 1855. In 1865, the Civil War ended, Lincoln was assassinated, slavery was abolished. The country was no longer naive, more cynical, and a lot wiser than it had been half a century earlier. We have also to understand that the shift of the romantic movement was made from Europe to America by this time. The country was no longer naive, more cynical, and a lot wiser than it had been half a century earlier, 50 years ago. And ambivalence, balancing pessimism and optimism, balancing pessimism and optimism that was reflected in the works of so many of the period's authors is much proof to the transcendentalists of during this time in history. So that is what we can see. That is all about what we can talk about the romantic period and the different schools. But as I was telling again and again to conclude that the importance why we need to focus, why we need to get back to the romantic era, romantic period in literature is while we try to analyze and locate the similarity, or not only the similarity, the relevance of the romantics, of the need to study the romantic, the relevance of the romantic period to this present day, which is the postmodern period, why there is a need to get back to nature, to praise the imagination, to praise nature, to lay focus on more on emotions than on logical reasoning and thought, come whatever be with the postmodern invasion or the technological invasion. And of course, with the artificial intelligence coming on, we need to get back and we need to return to nature again and again, and not forget to leave our emotions alive. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for a very expansive and in detail lecture of this particular age, consisting of some of the schools of thoughts and movements. May I request the participants, if you can please put forward your questions. You can raise your hand or type in the chat box. And we will try to request our resource person to answer your questions. Saurav says that the connection between the dark romantic and transcendentalism is not clear. Ma'am, I hope we are audible to you.
The connection between dark romantic and transcendentalism.
Yeah, transcendentalism and dark
romantic. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Am I audible? Okay.
Yeah, you are audible.
I just, yeah. Yes, I just discussed the 5 characteristics of between dark romantics and transcendentalism. That is what he said. The question,
ma'am, he says that the connection between dark romantic and transcendentalism is not clear with respect to American society and culture.
One minute. Now, see, transcendentalism or transcendental literature, emphasizes the goodness of people and nature. And dark romantic is more likely to emphasize the suffering and sinfulness. So there is there cannot once the dark romantics have pointed out, or they have emphasized on the suffering and sinfulness, is always there has to be a relief from there. Okay, so there has to be a group of writers who would come in and say that no, there is the ultimate is the God, and we have to return. So the simplistic living and self-reliance need to be restored back. So there has to be it kind of goes on. It is a loop. So if you are there cannot be a connection per se, but of course there is an urge to get back, to bring back the faith on, because the dark romantic focuses on the gory state of affairs. When you focus on the gory state of affairs, when you are focusing on depression, guilt, horror, supernaturalism, there has to be a breather in the form of transcendentalism, which talks about the which talks about the super power God above all of us, and we need to seek that divine grace. There has to be that call for that, where we need to seek the divine grace and the divine supremacy. We have to rely on that. So that is what the transcendentalism is offering us, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The next question is from Aparna Jeet, and Aparna Jeet says that does transcendentalism have any connections to India, as there is a feeling of familiarity between their idea of divine to Hindu belief of karma?
Yes, I was talking about this. I was just mentioning this. It is not a connection or influence, but of course you will see that spirituality or the simplistic living and importance of nature, etc. All these are now even propagated by the spiritual leaders, the motivational leaders, the spiritual leaders, wherein the aesthetics of nature and simplistic living is more. Of course, yes, but there is no actual connect. You cannot say that there is a connection of which came first, because of course the Sanatana Hindu Dharma has been all along, but who knows that it has not come to India, but they have taken something from India as well. So that is more to. That is a gray area where you can, of course, research to find out, Yeah. But of course, there is a similarity, yes.
Katisharan G talks about any suggestions from the UG students who are preparing for upcoming COET PG. That I think, take this question.
Yes.
Central University entrance examination for postgraduate. This is for the first time that the government of India has introduced. My suggestion, as per my experience studying in a central university, we also had our entrance from graduation to MA. My suggestion would be, please read your graduation entire syllabus once. And second, please read wherever you're going. I mean the central university syllabus, wherever you're applying for PG. Please read the syllabus once. I mean, reading means you see the authors, the PG syllabus, the authors and the works that they have written, which is prescribed in their syllabus. Read that and read what is already you have studied in your graduation. I think then you will crack that exam. Don't ignore linguistic part, phonetics, place of articulation, manner of articulation, diphthongs. Don't miss that. That would be my suggestion. Ma'am, there's a question by Sudham Das, and Sudham Das says that the Romantic period basically is related with nature and supernaturalism. Is there any connection with reality also in this period? I told you this is a heterogeneous group from graduation to PG, PhD, so you will have all sorts of questions. Would you like to answer this?
There is a connection to reality. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. We cannot, the romantics never said that we have to, I mean, it is not magical. They were very much aware of the industrial revolution going around, of the American Civil War being just ended. So there's no, they had their foot on the ground. They were just praising nature, and that this call was, the praise of nature in the verses is a call as a relief. They offered, the verses offered relief, even that, even the contextualizes even today also. Like, we go back, like we were saying, we cannot deny that we have our work, but we go on for weekend trips to outskirts of the city, don't we? So it's not that they were denying reality. No.
Sudham, I would just request you, please read the socio-political events that were taking place between 1770 to,
Yes.
1750 to 1790.
Yes.
That will give a very good idea about the revolutions and the events that were taking place, socio-political condition of Europe, especially in Britain. That will give you a very good idea, and that would be your answer to this question. With that, we can conclude by saying that we thoroughly enjoyed a lecture which was full of information in details, and I'm sure this lecture has played a significant role in the better understanding of this age and the schools and events of the participants who have joined this particular series and this particular lecture today. Words are not enough to thank you, ma'am, for your kind support, cooperation, and your time. On behalf of Team DAATH VOYAGE, I would like to extend my hearty congratulations and regards. Please take care. See you soon. Good night.
Thank you. You too. Take care, Shulka. Thank you. Good night.